Hi and welcome to this episode of Photographer in the Making. Today we're going to be looking at how to edit your photos in red lighting, specifically photos from concerts. So, you've got your image in Photoshop or Lightroom Classic, which is what I prefer to use. We're going to go to develop. First thing that I like to do is go to the contrast, highlights and shadows. These can dramatically change an image without editing your exposure. First up, I like to add quite a lot of contrast to my photos. I like quite a standout look, quite a sharp look. So I'm going to up that up by about 12. We're then going to go to highlights. Again, we're going to bring that up. This will help compensate for not upping the exposure straight away. We're going to add that up by about 48. Next we'll go to shadows. And again, we're going to bring that up. So we're going to go to about, again, 48 I'd say. Now we're going to add the brightness. So we've got whites and blacks. These will also affect the contrast as how sharp an image is going to be. So I like to do a lot of white, I like to do a lot of black. To do that, you add to the white. So we're going to go up positive by about 20. And then we're going to go down on the blacks to about -10. It can definitely change an image more than what you want it to. Now we've got these done. We're going to go down to the presence. So here we have texture. Again, you don't want to do too much with texture. You want to keep it nice and simple. Too much can really affect a photo. For this photo in particular, we've already got a lot going on, especially with the singer's outfit. I don't want to up the texture too much as it will really affect it. I normally do about 3 or 4 and I try to keep it at that. Now we have clarity. Now clarity sort of makes things stand out more contrast almost, whereas texture makes things more refined. So I up the clarity a little bit more than I do the texture to about 6. Again, we don't want too much harshness in our image. We want it to still be quite soft while still looking in focus and clear. Now dehaze I normally touch after I do my exposure, so we're going to miss that bit for now. Next we're going to go to the vibrance. Now again, I wouldn't recommend adding too much, depends what look you're after. Today we're just going to edit this photo naturally, so I'm not going to do too much to it. I would up the vibrance at about 5, maybe less. I probably wouldn't go more than that. Again, saturation about 3. I don't want to add too much as it can bring out the colours too much in a photo and really make the artist look different. Now next up we have tone curve. I do normally miss this out. It just depends. You can see there's some differences that it makes. It is the highlights are complementing singers quite nicely. Same with the lights, the darks. Again, I don't really want to go too dark with them. So whilst I don't normally touch that, it can help with little adjustments. Now we're going to skip past colour mixer. I don't really like using that. I prefer to use colour grading. Now colour grading is really fun. You can really make your own style with this. Really make a image for yourself. I think if you want to make your images unique, colour grading is where you make that. Now I always like to do quite contrasty colours in my images to make them stand out. But today I'm just to keep it simple, just so we're not overwhelming. Now we've got some reds and purples in here, so I'm just going to play about. I think I want to go for more of a green and blue, more of a cool tone. So I'm going to drag this top one. We're going to go down. What I like to do is I just drag it around in a circle and I look for what makes the person in the frame look the most natural. As we can see, it's way too dark at the reds, way too dark at the purples. The blues also did look quite harsh. Now around here, the singer's skin tone is starting to look a bit more natural. Same with up here. I just play about a little. We're going to look at the darks, see what difference all of it makes. And this one is quite hard. think I will just throw in the greens lightly, but I'm going to keep it quite neutral and quite calm. Now on this little bar below the colour wheel, we can choose how much we want of this and how little. Now obviously if I drag it down, it changes the image way too much. We don't like that. If I slide it to the top, it's too overexposed. So it's about finding the balance. Again, depending on what artistic look you're going for, I wouldn't up it by too much. And we can always come back and change that when we do the exposure. Now, next up, we're going to look at the background. Now, straight off the bat, I'm really liking this blue. I think that again makes it look really natural. We're looking at that, which I love. And then we're looking at the pinks. You see a really big difference. It can make an image look awful to make an image look amazing. So I'm going to go for the blues. I'm going to have a little look up here. I am liking the green and the blues. You can sort of just rotate between them, see which one you like more. You don't have to rush it, you know, you can take your time to make sure that you get the right colour grading. I wouldn't rush this part, I'd always take my time. I can spend ages, maybe like 30 minutes on one photo, just changing the colours and tweaking them, going back through the settings just to make sure that it's how I want it. Now I think I like it where it is, but it is nice. It's got more of a warm vibe up here. Right, I think about there, we're kind of in between the blues and the greens, and I do like that. Now I am going to brighten this up a little, I think. Now we can see at the top where this L is. That is just, I believe that stands for light. Now do not quote me on that. And I'm going to up it by a little, but I'm not going to up it by a lot. I'm just going to keep it nice and natural. Now here we are at the highlights. Again, I never normally change the colour on this. I like to do a little tweak sometimes, but as you can see, changing the colour can really affect the photo, and I don't think that in concept photography it's flattering. So I like to just keep that pretty much bang on the centre. And I always bring that bar up. You can see the difference of none and a lot. We also don't want to be too overexposed, we still want to have something there. Right, now I'm down to blending. This can really help sort of see what the computer thinks. We've got 100 and we've got 0. I actually prefer the 0 to the 100. I'm going to go about halfway. And then we have balance. Again, this can really help. And it can really change your perspective on a photo and as to what you want. But yeah, I'm just going to go for about the middle. Now we have detail. Detail can really help. I wouldn't recommend using the AI denoise function on this though. I did used to use it, but I think it can just really take away the art from a photo, and it can really just make them look like lose all the detail and all the sharpness. So I go down to the manual sharpening here and I just up it to the next one. I don't do anything else. I leave it there and that is enough for me. And then I scroll down. Now we have lens corrections. I never do anything with that again, I just scroll past it. Same with transform. I don't deal with that, as we can see. It's just, unless you were going for an artistic look, I wouldn't recommend it as it can really affect your image. Now I do like to use a little bit of calibration. These can make little tweaks. You can see it here in the image when I'm scrolling to and from the difference. This is also very warm, this is very cool toned. And we're going for a bit of a cool and warm toned image. We're going to go to this one again. We don't like that, it's way too yellow. If we scroll to the red, it's too red, so I'm just going to keep that one how it was. You can go a little bit to either side, but I wouldn't do a lot. Then we've got the greens. Again. Now I do like that, but I think that the singer just looks a little bit too red, so I'm just going to put it a little bit on the green side, but not by a lot. Now we have the blues. Again, as you can see, it's just not working for this image, so they can be helpful. I don't use the calibration part for every image, but if I have colour graded it, I do like to use that just for a second opinion. Now we're going to go back up to the top. Now we're going to go to exposure. And you just see the difference. Now, I never like doing too much exposure. I always keep it natural. And one thing you can also change is the white balance. Again, I like to do this at the end when I've already done all my little changes. This can again really help how an image looks. Now, obviously on the yellow side, it's going to be more warm tones to the blue, much more cold. We are keeping this in the middle, so I'm going to go a little bit to yellow just to keep the saturation, but we've still got the cool tones in the purple and then this little bit of green up here. Now we have the tint. Now for the tint, I'm going to go more to the green. You can see the difference here and the difference there. The ours looks much more natural in this light, so we're going to go down by a little bit, but again, not too much. Now we're going to go back to the highlights and the contrast and the exposure. This is where I make little tweaks to make sure that everything's working together how I want them to. Now for the highlights, I am going to go up. I just love a really clean looking photo. And then I am going to bring the contrast up a little more, just to see the difference there, to just go into 30. It's a really big jump and it just totally makes an image stand out to you. And then the exposure again, I'm just going to bring it up the teeniest bit. We're going to try avoiding causing too much overexposure on the heels and here. So I might bring that down by a little bit just to be safe. There we go. And for Lightroom Classic, that is that section done. Now, we're not over yet, we're going to go into Photoshop. We're going to go to File. We're going to export it. We're going to put it where you need it to go. You can put it to a hard drive, you can put it onto your computer, whatever works. One thing that I always like to do is I keep the quality as high as I can. And now I prefer to keep it as a JPEG here. Or well, from a RAW to a JPEG. RAWs are much easier to work with in the editing process, which is why people prefer them. The colours can be a bit more realistic. But they are big, much bigger file sizes compared to a JPEG. I'd recommend using a JPEG if you're a beginner. If you are a bit more advanced, start shooting in RAW, because editing in it will make your life much easier. Now I do go down and I make sure that my metadata is on. If this is in your camera, it will automatically go into the photos when you export them, when you save them, and when you send them to people, your name is embedded. So yeah, we're going to make sure the quality is at 100, and then we're going to make sure it's going into the right place, and we're going to hit export. And we're going to wait for that one to export, and then we'll open up Photoshop. And here's our image in Photoshop. Now I like to use the camera raw filter. It's what I've been taught to use, and I just think it makes some really good adjustments. Now we've already got quite a good photo. We don't want to change it too much, but what I do want to do is go down to the colour mixer. Now as you can see, we've got quite a lot of oranges going on here. I want to make these a little bit more natural, so we're going to bring the oranges down. Then this leads to the yellows. We can make it go back to what it was, we can bring it into the greens. I'm going to go right up, actually, to balance it out more. We can adjust the reds, we can make them darker, make them stronger. It does look much better when I'm increasing the saturation of them. They've got these sort of greens that are going on, especially in the singer's jeans. I think they look better blue, so I'm just going to keep them down. Now it's really important to go through everything to make sure everything blends in together right. As you can see, you have to be careful that they're not going to clash too much. There's too much contrast going on here for colour, so I'm going to bring it back down to cute purple. And that looks much better with a brighter purple. There is some contrast here though, so I'm just going to be wary of that and not turn it up too much. There we go. Now there is colour grading. Sometimes I will adjust a little in the second part, but only on the bar at the bottom. So as you can see, it isn't making much brighter now, but we don't want it to be too much. There we go. Then I'm going to hit OK because I don't think that we did us anything else. I'm really happy with this image, and this is one that I'd be happy to send off and post on my socials. So to save that, we're going to go to File, Export again, Export As, I save mine as JPEGs, copyright and contact info, always make sure to click that. Make sure it's how you want it to be and it's going to the right place. Export. There we go, that is our photo saved. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again in the next episode.